Hi Aries, welcome to your July 2018 Astro Update. It's Raina here. July is an eventful month for all of us because we have two eclipses in July. And I'm going to get to those in a minute, but I want to talk about a couple of other things that are happening before the solar eclipse. Because as the month begins, we have the sun in Cancer. And for you, Aries, this is your fourth house of home and family. So this can make you much more domestic, much more nurturing when the sun is in your fourth house. If you have not had children, you may be thinking, is this a time for that? Is this something that I want to do? And there may be just a lot of attention being placed on your physical home itself, deciding, do I want to stay here? Do I want to sell my home? Do I want to decorate my home? And things of that nature. And Venus is going to be going into Virgo on the 9th. So for the first 9 days, Venus is in a fellow fire sign. And this is a very friendly energy, a trine to Aries, and in the house that it rules, Leo. So Venus in that fifth house can mean that you are entertaining more or going to parties more, having just a lot of fun. It could be about falling in love for some Aries people who are single and looking. Because this is the love house, the romance house. This is the house of creativity. And Venus can bring an artistic influence. So that could be featured for some Aries people. It's a really good time for you. It's actually going to start in June. But until the 9th of the month, you should be having a lot of good times and really feeling a sense of joy, because the fifth house can be just about fun and games and anything that involves creativity and children too. So getting along with your children, Venus can bring harmony. And then it goes into a very practical place in the 6th house on the 9th in Virgo. And Virgo rules this house. And so Venus in the 6th house can mean that something at work is smoothed over, or just you feel a sense of harmony with coworkers. You may get a raise because Venus can bring money to the house that she travels through. It can mean that your office is getting some kind of a renovation in terms of but something that makes it look nice. It doesn't have to be building a new addition or anything like that, but maybe a fresh coat of paint or a redecorating that office. Or it could mean that you are investing in some sort of item, and this might be a machine or, I don't know, maybe even just some kind of some kind of a class that can make you look better. In other words, that would have to do with your health. So you might be investing in a, nutritional, some kind of a Vitamix or something that is kind of like a high ticket item. That's a, high-speed blender, or a rebounder, which is good for your health, and it kind of is good for purifying people in terms of their lymphatic system, and, things like that are practical, but they can also be things that, they can deal with your health, but they can be higher priced items, or just something that makes you look physically better. So you may invest in a personal trainer even, And you're just looking at it from the sense of, yes, it's health, but I also want to look better. So there could be a little vanity attached to it, but not anything bad, just that you want to improve your health and make yourself look better at the same time. And so that's on the 9th. And then the very next day, Jupiter goes direct. For some Aries sun, you may have Sagittarius rising, and that means that Jupiter is your ruler. And this would be a particularly important station for you in transit. So Jupiter is going direct at 13 degrees of Scorpio, and this is your 8th house, which deals with other people's money, sex, intimacy, so that can be more than just sex, and death issues. So especially with the money and the death, we're talking about inheritances maybe, and when Jupiter is direct, it may be that something that kind of went off the rails regarding an inheritance is now back on track. There may have been something else that you had to do in order to make it happen. Now, Jupiter, even in retrograde motion, can be helpful to give people second chances to benefit from some sort of expansion or some sort of luck that they may have missed the first time around. But still, it's a retrograding planet. It's a big planet. So I think that its influence is quite massive. I don't know if it's the Vedic astrologers who really give it a lot of power, but there's this book out there that talks about how Jupiter is a very important influence on our charts. And I read it a while ago, but I never found out if it was based on Vedic astrology. I have to believe that it must be, because it's not considered a personal planet in Western astrology. And so, I mean, in terms of we really look at Jupiter to, figure out personality or to any kind of traits that might impact somebody's way of being. Yeah, to some degree, but it's a planet that takes like a year to transit, so it affects a wide amount of people and therefore is not very personal in that sense. But so that is good news, I think, for all of us who are trying to manifest things. And then a couple of days later, we have that first eclipse. Now, this is a solar eclipse, 20 degrees of Cancer. And this is your 4th house of home and family. So this can bring new beginnings in connection with domestic affairs, and that could also include homes. So if you are trying to sell your home or buy a home, this can be a time when doors open for you. Now, it is important for me to note that on the 25th or 26th, depending on where you live in the world, Mercury goes retrograde in Leo at 23 degrees of Leo, which for you is that 5th house. Now, that could have to do with something related to a love affair and not specifically about housing. But when Mercury goes retrograde, Mercury can deal with contracts. So if you are in negotiation for a home, they do say that when Mercury is retrograde not to sign contracts or do anything, new, launch something for that matter. But perhaps you're not even at that stage yet, because the solar eclipse, while it can affect you before that actual date of July 12th, chances are that even at the end of the month, if you're trying to put your house on the market, that it does take time. I mean, I guess there are some hot areas where somebody would snap it right up. But, and of course, if you are in that process and you have a buyer, or there's a house that you really want to buy and it happens to be during a Mercury retrograde, I mean, to me, it would be foolish to say, no, I'm going to turn down this offer because I don't want to do it during a Mercury retrograde. It's all about being conscious. Mercury retrograde can simply mean that you have to really read everything that you sign very, very carefully, because there could be something that you miss, and then you have to do something over again. But it certainly doesn't mean it has to be the end of the world. And so I just wanted to make you aware of that, because some Aries people may be thinking about moving or buying a new house, and they may not even know that this solar eclipse is occurring in their home sector. So that might be, perfect timing for some of you. And then on the 22nd of the month, the sun goes into Leo. Yay, because that's a fellow fire sign. And that is a very nice angle to your sun or rising in Aries. And again, with the fifth house, we're talking about things that are pastimes, pleasures. It could be like parties, and for a lot of people in the Northern Hemisphere, July is the heart of summer. So it's a time when socializing can be easier because people may be taking vacation, they may be outside more, and it just feels more relaxing to be socializing with somebody and sitting outside and having a picnic or something like that. And it could be a time of romance, as I said. So definitely when Venus is in that fifth house, it kind of paves the way for everything that follows. And there will be in August a solar eclipse in this romance sector in August. So you have that to look forward to if you're single and looking. And like I said, Mercury goes retrograde on the 25th or the 26th, 23 degrees of Leo, and this is in your fifth house of romance and creativity. So this could be hearing from a past lover and maybe even starting things up again with that person. When Mercury retrogrades, people often report that they hear from people from their past. It doesn't have to be a romantic partner, but somebody. But this happens to be in the house of romance. And so that can be very interesting if there's somebody from your past that you're looking to hear from. Of course, if you don't want to hear from somebody from your past, then forewarned is forearmed, I guess. On the 27th or 28th, depending on where you live, we're going to have that lunar eclipse, and this is at 4 degrees of Aquarius. So Aquarius is another sign that's at a friendly angle to you. Aquarius is the 11th house. It forms a sextile to Aries, and the 11th house is the house of hopes and wishes. Lunar eclipses are very powerful full moons, so something that involves the 11th house can come to a head, can come to fruition. Maybe a long-desired goal is reached, or some dream that you've had comes true. It can be that you break ties with a friend, or even like a group of people. Sometimes when I think of that lunar eclipse, I think of something very dramatic ending. And the 11th house, it could be like a group. Let's say you belong to a political group, and then you decide, these people are lame. I'm done with them. And it really is closing a chapter in your life, because maybe it meant a lot to you at one time, but now you've moved on. or just maybe the people that you hang around. You decide, they're not about anything, and I'm tired of the bad influence. I want to attract friends that are more aligned with what I'm about. And so you may just kind of like walk away from a whole group of people that you normally associate with. And it can be that you realize a long-held goal of yours. The 11th house is the luckiest house, and it's a house of long-range goals. It doesn't have to be anything connected to career, which is the 10th house. But certainly it could be something that is very dramatic for you. And it's a great way to end the month. And you have that solar eclipse in August in a fellow fire sign, Leo, to look forward to. So there it is, Aries. I hope that you enjoyed this. And if you'd like a private reading, like a natal chart interpretation, kind of like this, but dealing with you personally in your exact time of birth and your exact date and everything that involves, and also looking at some of your personality traits, please click the link below. I'm going to put that specific reading below so you can check that out if you're interested. And I wish you an amazing July. Bye.